So, we have a very stringent vendor evaluation process, and some of the few things that we look at is consistency and quality. And what are the tools that those companies employ to be able to get that consistency? Some of the things we have done in-house, revolve around total productive management or TPM, TQM. A lot of times, traceability is very important to us because it's very important to our customers. Many times we notice that a lot of our customers also have approved vendor lists. So for SMEs, it's very important that they get onto the approved vendor lists of the end customer as well. So for example, a lot of times we supply to many of our PSUs like Indian Oil or Hindustan Petroleum. So they have their own vendor lists who are qualified as per Engineers India Limited's qualification process, whether it's EIL or PDIL. So in terms of our subcontractors, many of them are already approved with the end client. So I think SMEs need to look at which sector they want to focus on and then start getting on the approved vendor lists of the end clients in those sectors. In terms of our global businesses, I would like to highlight, one of the reason we went out globally and started all these companies outside is because as an Indian company, we're not favored, our products are not favored when we try and enter European countries or the United States, any tier 1 country really. And they have their own trade barriers in place, whether it is local content norms or, many times, for example, for the oil and gas company I run, we've been told you can't qualify for a bid if you don't have 70% local content.
Which year was this?
Very recently, in the last 5 years, so Saudi Aramco has told all its vendors that unless you have 80% local content, you're not even going to qualify for the tender. And we see this trend increasingly throughout the Middle East. We see it in Southeast Asia, we see it in Europe. And many times I wonder that as an Indian company, one huge advantage for us is to be able to access our own market simply because it's the largest in the world. And what I notice is that even in the Indian tenders, these norms are really not implemented in a fashion that would support wealth generators, local wealth generators. So in many of the government tenders, we see only 20% local content, which means that a foreign manufacturer can basically do only the packaging and be able to supply to the government procured products.
And I'll say that, initially when I joined the business, I joined KBL after I left the startup, after the startup was sold in the US. I joined KBL in 2007. And at that point in time, KBL had somehow metamorphed itself from being more a product company to becoming a project company, because at the time there were a large number of irrigation water supply projects in India. And so we thought, it's a great idea. We make big pumps, so why not make the whole scheme? Seemed like a great idea, and we did some very good schemes, including the Sardar Sarovar scheme in Gujarat. But what happened was, over time, by 2010, we noticed that the government was having serious issues paying contractors. And that caused a real skew in our business, because 75% of our business in India came from projects, and the rest came from products. And when the government stopped paying us, like they did to many other contractors, it put serious cash flow pressures on the business. And I remember that my father had promised himself after 1991 that we would always remain a debt-free company. And we were a debt-free company all the way up to 2009 or 2008. And we saw the debt sort of rising up again as the government wasn't paying us, and we had to fund working capital. And at the time, we had a few options. The only real option was growing the product business. But growing the product business by 500 to 1,500 crores in a 2 to 3 year span was not very easy. And we had to employ all sorts of new techniques to make that happen. And the first one was, the easiest one would have been to employ a lot of people to increase sales. But the area we chose to look at was invest significantly in artificial intelligence. And we use that as a way to, document and manage knowledge that our salespeople have and that our application engineering team sort of has developed over the years, which is all converted into logic. And this allowed us to cater to large numbers of customers quicker, much quicker, and also without all the overhead costs that it would require if you had huge number of people. Right? So that was the first time we sort of invested a lot of money into AI, which we continue to invest today. But that's when we saw the real impact of AI. And slowly over the years, we've also, of course, changed payment terms because, payment terms are important when you need cash. And managing cash, managing debt, I think was really important. But at the same time, managing people and managing, their morale and managing their enthusiasm and their engagement, I think that was really important in India at that time. And that is what really ensured that attrition rates were low, and we were able to resolve issues. We couldn't resolve all the issues immediately because, when you have big projects with the government, it takes a long time. But at least we were able to make progress without attrition because people were engaged and motivated and passionate. And that's what finally companies are about, right? They're about people.
So I get enjoyment by having a positive impact on people's lives, and I think that our business allows us to do that today. The business goal and societal goal are very well aligned, and that is what brings both passion and drive to me to working in our companies.
That which most of the companies have, they have something you will see in many companies. I'm quite sure that every company would have something called their document of values or document philosophy. Whenever you're confronted with an ethical dilemma, and that's a time to turn right or left, you use your lighthouse, which is the values that's been enunciated from where you work. Now, in a family, you will have a family values that is used to resolve right or left.
Right.
Where you come from, which family you come from. And that decides how do you resolve your ethical dilemmas, right? Now, it's not about right and wrong, but the fact of the matter is that it is enduring. You know very well these values are the one decide whether to take right turn or right or left.
Hi everyone, I'm here at the MCCIA Leadership Summit. I'm quite excited to be here. There's a fantastic line of speakers. At least I could listen to a couple of them. It's so enriching to be here. Now, the kind of conversation I had with Vandana here, it was about decision making and ethical dilemma in decision making. It's a very key component of leadership. And particularly so in the healthcare industry, we are always confronted with the dilemma which way to go, because both the direction will look very good, because one is toward the patient, the other one is toward our own sustainability of the ecosystem. So I had a brief conversation. I loved the question and the way in which the audience have asked questions, so I was delighted to be here. There are a couple of points also I want to mention here, that healthcare, we are at the verge of a major breakthrough that's happening in the area of healthcare globally, because today the average longevity on a global basis and also in India is going up significantly. In 1947 only 45 years longevity, today it's 68. Today people are living 80s and 90s in urban centers. It's become an order of the day. So quite obviously the dimension of healthcare, it's just not only pharmaceutical industry. The opportunities is almost in every aspect, whether you want to be in a payer, whether you want to be a physician, whether you want to be auxiliary, whether you want to be in a medical devices, whether you want to be in pharmaceutical industry, diagnostic industry, genetic testing, and geriatric cares. The kind of opportunity to serve is raising exponentially. And particularly in India, we have what I call the double hump. We have a large portion of youngsters, and we also have a large portion of senior citizens. So we are lucky to have a lot of young people serving the senior citizens. Not necessarily all other countries have that advantage because they are graying, but countries don't have what it takes to support the graying population. So I personally believe healthcare is on the verge of a big change in India.
So I think over a period of time, parenting has changed. Earlier, parents had to parent the children, and now I think it's an equal relationship. So is the case with organizations. I think there is no boss and there is no subordinate. Everybody has a job, and both are learning from each other. Like I was just with Kotak Bank a few days ago, and the board's average age is 61, and the shadow board we are creating average age is 32. And the main board is looking forward to learning from these youngsters. So I think right now we are in that stage where we shouldn't ever believe that we know everything or we can guide everybody. It's all about collaboration and finding out by expressing an idea. It can be something as simple as that in 2 years' time we want to double our profits. Now I want ideas. How do you think we can do it? So it's more about ideation and collaboration rather than we want to double the profits. This is what you will do. This is what you will do. That doesn't work anymore. So is the case with parenting. When I was a child, if my father says go and do this, I will just go and do this. Today, if I tell my child go and do this, she'll ask me why me, why not bhaiya, why not you yourself. So those days of orders are over and the days of collaboration begins. So that's how parenting and parenting the workshop kind of overlaps each other.
In order to succeed in difficult times, SMEs have to maximize utilization of resources. Systems should avoid human errors. Systems should proactively alert the users when anything is crossing the limit. SMEs need a good business management system that have following features. It should be integrated of all the departments. It should be user friendly, affordable, should be fast implementable. It should not require too much costly servers. System should be bug free, proven, reliable. System should support best business practices. It should be technologically advanced. It should allow integration with the machines to allow Industry 4.0. It should have regular upgrades, and most importantly, it should have the mobile app so the users can access from anywhere. Now, what is the right time to change? Ups and downs are cyclical. Is your current system scalable enough to handle growth? Can you change the system when you are neck deep in the customer's orders? Today is the right time to implement a good business management system when senior management, middle management and supervisor have relatively more time to give inputs and implement the new system. Thank you.
In our company, this process started by accident. I remember it was 2007. I had gone to Kerala and I was having a full day discussion with my sales team in Kerala. And at that time, I think we must have been, maybe a 7 crore sales company or something thereabouts. And an average salesman in the country, and we were at that time already in some 10, 12 states of India, I forget how many at that time. And an average salesman in a course of a year gave us about 30 lakhs of sales, which was considered good by us. And there was this young guy who had just joined the organization about 6 months ago, who looked very unimpressive, and he interrupted me in this review session and just said, "Sir, what will you give me if I give you 1 crore of sales?" My first reaction was that this guy is a nutcase. But having asked in the presence of, 10 other people, I could not be impolite to him, and I said, "What do you want?" So he said, "If I give you 1 crore of sale, I want a Hero Honda Passion motorcycle." So I said, "What does it cost?" "I don't know." So he said, "About 55,000 rupees. So I took out my letter pad and wrote to him, "You give me 1 crore of sale this year and you get a Hero Honda Passion motorcycle," handed it over to him and forgot about it. I couldn't help just follow his progress over the months, and I found that the guy was doing phenomenally well. So a month before the year end in February, he called me and said, "Sir, 1 crore is difficult. What happens if I give you 90 lakhs? I said, "Instead of a motorcycle, I'll give you a bicycle." But a target is a target. Now, this boy did 1 crore. And 2 months later, when I went to Kerala and I presented him with this motorcycle, he wept like a child, because he had come from a very, very poor background, as I later found out. He had never owned even a second-hand two-wheeler in his life. And that was a big learning experience for me. I said, with all our constraints and all our weaknesses, this is the power of motivation. That in that same milieu, when others are doing 30 lakhs, that charm of that motorcycle could enable this guy to do 1 crore. So why don't we spread this across the company? And we organized our first, in fact, after I gave the motorcycle, I came back into the room, I remember, and I said, "Okay, next year you got to do 1.5 crores. What do you want?" He said, "Give me a Tata Nano," which had not been launched, but it had been announced, the 1 lakh car. So I said, "Done." And he did 1.5 crores. And Tata Nano by that time had a 1-year waiting queue. So I told him, "You want to wait for a year?" He said, "You can give me an Alto instead if you want." So he finally settled for 1 lakh cash, which we gave him. But then for the first time, I organized a conference of the entire company together. And we said we're going to do this to everyone. This man got his 1 lakh in the presence of the whole company. And we did something very unusual. We said, we will not set sales targets. You will select your own sales target. And we put up an Excel sheet on the screen where everybody's last year's sales figures were given. And I said, we'll go one by one. You select your own target. I've got a formula keyed in there that depending upon the difficulty of the target, a reward amount will pop up next to the figure. Wow. So if somebody says, my last year's figure was 30 lakhs and this year will be whatever, 40 lakhs, the reward amount that would pop up would be small. But if he said 50 lakhs, the reward would increase exponentially.
So you gamified it?
We gamified it. So we said, again, we are not going to set the target. You decide your risk level. You kind of bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Pretty much like Yudhishthir throwing the dice. So you decide what your risk level is. And it worked like magic. From that day, it was like flipping a switch. We went from an annual 15-16% growth rate overnight to 40-45% growth rate.
First thing to do is when you're going through good times, that's when you prepare yourself for difficult times, so that you're ready when tough times come. And businesses go through cycles. So there will be good times, there will be bad times. Hopefully the good times will be a lot more than the bad times. So preparing yourself in advance is very important. The second thing that is important is really to understand that while you're building your business for today, so you have to perform for today, you're working in a competitive market, we understand that, but how are you transforming your business for tomorrow? Which are the new ideas, the new opportunities, the new markets, the new products that you're investing in? Because those will then create new businesses for you in the tough times when your existing businesses would be going through a challenge. And to be able to do that, no one person can build a business. So how do you build a culture in your organization that encourages innovation, that encourages people to experiment, that encourages early failure, so that you build a culture that generates a lot of ideas, and the good ideas then are taken forward to help you grow in your business. So I think it's a combination of these factors that can help prepare businesses to ride through difficult times.
We heard about trust, and trust has actually 4 components. One, of course, is character, which is what we basically mean when we say trust. That goes without saying. But the other very important component is competence, the ability to do things. Somebody might have a great character, but if they don't have the skill to drive a car, in spite of a great character, they will meet with accidents. So sometimes you would have experienced hiring people who have rock solid character, but they don't have the competence to make things happen. And we thought they will deliver and they are not able to deliver, and we might come to a conclusion that you broke my trust, I depended on you and you didn't deliver. The character was in place, the competence was not. So trust requires character plus competence. So the third very essential element of trust, like I would like to trust people who have courage. If courage is not there, they might have character, they might have competence, but at the right time or in a little difficult situation, they may not be able to perform or they may not be able to deliver. And the fourth thing, which is very crucial in trust, is consistency. In Pune, most people would know about this restaurant called Vaishali. Now we go to Vaishali because of consistency. You go there one day and the HPDP is not good or idli sambar is not good, and then after that you may lose all your enthusiasm to go back to that place because consistency was not available. So when you have to rely on trust and when you have to create a team of trust, trust being a very, very essential aspect, do ensure that your focus is on all these 4 components: character, competence, courage, as well as consistency. Now when these 4 are in place, you will succeed like nobody's business.
There are a few key pillars on which we've tried to build our financial services business over the last now 12 years or so. The first is that we build businesses that are profitable and growing and long-term focused. Across our lending business in Bajaj Finance or our 2 insurance companies, we've often come across opportunities where there could be short-term gain. But if it comes in the way of our long-term plans, then we let go of those opportunities. We do. Because it ends up becoming a short-term distraction. You could have short-term tactical opportunities which don't, I would say, come in the way of where you want to go long-term, and then it's fine to exploit those opportunities. But if it detracts from where you want to go in the long term, you must have the courage to let go of those opportunities, because otherwise they end up taking too much energy away from what I talked about earlier, which is the need to transform the business for the long term. So focusing on long-term profitable growth opportunities is important. So any new business line we get into, and even in Bajaj Finance, we have 30 different business lines. So our home loans is a business line. Lending against consumer goods is a third one. Lending against vehicles, to a vehicle loan is yet another one. Loans to doctors, we are the largest lenders to doctors in the country, is another line. So in each of these lines, we are very clear that firstly, the business size must be large enough for it to justify us to get into it. And for different businesses, naturally, you will define size based on the opportunity that you see, based on the game that you want to play. The second is, it must be a business where we can balance both growth and profit. So there are certain minimum thresholds for growth and profit that the business must meet, and otherwise we will drop that business. And we've had businesses, luckily not too many, but for example, our infrastructure lending business was one which we started off, and we realized within a couple of years that we were not hitting that minimum target for profitability, and we could not see that profitability in the industry also, and we basically just wound down that business and shut it. So the ability to be able to do that becomes important. The next is that in any business, and especially in financial services, the business can very easily be commoditized. Because when if one of you want to go for a loan, you will go to 3 or 4 banks or NBFCs, and whoever gives you the cheapest loan, you will go there. So how much differentiation can you build in your product or service? But we have even there focused significantly on driving a culture of innovation in the company to build differentiation in our products and services. We have changed our processes to create differentiation so that a customer comes and chooses us because of that value add we are able to provide.
See, I think the important thing to remember is that difficult times are transient. There will always be a period of uncertainty, period of slowdown. But ultimately, if we build strong organizations and we have optimism, that a leader, as somebody always said, is a dealer in hope. And a dealer in hope means that you should look for the positives, build towards the positives, invest in downtimes, and then I think when the markets pick up and the opportunity is better, then you will be a market leader. So I think that optimism is extremely important.
It was an amazing day today, and for me there were 3 key takeaways. The first is, it doesn't matter where you are on your entrepreneurial journey, you need to be innovating. You can't put innovation away and say, I've got other things to deal with. The second is, you have to engage your staff. Your staff are the most important people, and without them you're not going to be able to go as far as you want. And the third, and what I think is most important, is that trust in your organisation is what's going to take you the furthest. And remember, at the heart of trust is US, which is us.
So in the context of the opening up of the markets, taking on foreign competition in Indian shores, and then taking a business interest outside the country, I think there's so much to learn from the manner in which Tatas have conducted their affairs. And critical in all of this has obviously been the focus on business values and ethical conduct. So I do believe that the Tata story has much to offer and can offer a number of learnings for SMEs, smaller companies that really want to learn from the experience of India's largest corporate house.
I think the one mantra that has come all through today's sessions by every speaker is innovation. That is one. And the second is taking care of your own team. If you look after those 2 things, always innovate, don't try to imitate, come up with newer ways of tackling the problems, understanding the customer, newer products or services, or better way of delivering the product or the service. That's innovation. And B, if you can keep your team together and motivated, you're not one entrepreneur, you create 100 entrepreneurs within the organization. And I think those are 2 things that would apply to any company of any size trying to scale up. And of course, you should have a desire for reaching for the sky. So as they say, keep your eyes in the stars, but your feet on the ground. So aim for the absolute limit and be grounded in reality at the same time. And I think you can achieve your dreams. That's all.
From a tax perspective, it's a very interesting time. You do have a lot of challenges what the businesses face, be it from a tax or a non-tax side, but especially from a tax side, call it a GST problem or an income tax. Taxpayers are facing a lot of issues, especially data churning. Massive or colossal data is what a taxpayer or an organization is required to churn every month. What is most important here, what we need to take care of, what we need to ensure that we have to do every month is to analyze this data. To analyze this colossal amount of data every month is not a very easy thing to do in a normal spreadsheet. You have to have tax technology tools which are available nowadays, which can help you not only to save time in churning this data, but will also help you to analyze this data, which will help you give more value to the business and to the organization as such. Market insights is again one thing what we need to be careful about, which will basically help the taxpayers as well as the industry at a large on a larger footing, which can be used to represent before the tax authorities or the government as well. This government, as we see, has been fairly responsive to the industry needs, and if there is a matter concerning the industry, we can be reasonably confident that if we are able to represent something of having a larger ramifications, that will also be heard. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. So a couple of interesting trends in learning and development space that organizations should actually adopt is to do with hearts and minds of people. And when we talk about heart of people, I think organizations today are struggling with building teams in a collaborative fashion, people talking to each other. And there should be learning and development programs that deal with the heart-centered leadership. That's one, whether it's T groups, whether it's about people being able to talk about how they are experiencing the organization, what is it that they are learning or not learning, or how are they managing conflicts. So that's one part of it. That's still the classroom training. That's still where a facilitator is required to facilitate those trainings. The other piece is to do with your mind, and that's all about how technology is taking over every single business. It doesn't matter whether you are an engineer or a non-engineer, whether you are in HR or finance or you are a data scientist. I think we all need to understand what is artificial intelligence doing to our world, what is machine learning doing. So I think AI ML is really important for every single person to understand. So this is a quick bite, and I think those are the two things, technology as well as heart-centered leadership, that we need to take along to create a great learning organization. So the formula, there's no formula, by the way, for leadership. So everybody brings their own style, and but I think there are three things that are required to inspire a tremendous amount of high performance, growth, engagement, loyalty, whatever you may call it, for a high performing team, the way you describe it. So I call it CTC, which is courage, trust, and confidence. If the CTC doesn't get right, if it's not cost to company, then it will cost your company a lot. So I think I'll start with trust. Trust is one of the most fundamental and important aspects. But to inspire trust in your teams is also the most difficult. It doesn't get built in a day, and it takes a lot of time. You have to really earn it. As a leader, you know, we always are under the pressure to be right. And that's the thing that we have to just let go. At times you have to be able to be vulnerable to the team, because that's when they relate to you. That's when you are human to them, and that's where you can inspire trust. So that was really my story around trust. And it also takes a lot of courage to be able to do this. Courage to call a spade, courage to go out of your comfort zone, and courage to do things differently. Talking on courage, one of my senior leaders in an investment bank, asked her once, how do I get comfortable in my job? Like every day there is a new pressure, something new to handle. And she just told me one single line that stuck with me, saying, get comfortable being uncomfortable. So really I would say get out of your comfort zone. And just on the last part that I wanted to talk about, Ganesh, was on confidence. Confidence, not so much in terms of what is the outcome as a leader I'm expecting. Of course, you will have your targets, you'll have your revenues to chase. The confidence is not about knowing the outcome, but confidence is about your readiness. Am I ready? And that readiness really, really comes with investing in your own self every single day. So are you learning? Are you investing in yourself as a leader? So easy to get caught up with, absolutely blocked calendars, running from one meeting to another, one decision to another. But do you step back? That's the question. Do you step back and do you ask yourself, what is it that I have done to move my company forward today? What is it that I have done to move myself forward?
I am going to talk about the digital revolution which is being taking place. Now, these are some of the business enablers. These are the terms I am sure you are hearing in various conferences, like the IoT, big data, machine learning. What are these words? I realize that people don't really understand these words. I try to demystify these words in simple languages. What is IoT? IoT is Internet of Things. You have got network of devices which has got embedded technology, by which they can interact with other devices or systems. When I say IIoT, that is IoT in industry, more of say Industry 4.0. These are the 8 areas where you would have seen the IoT happening. I'll take just a couple of examples. Say now you have got the devices or the equipments, car, computers, connect to the OEM. So before the actual breakdown happens, maybe before that they get indication and the company can take an action so that the breakdown doesn't happen. Take another example. Say the vehicle is going from your factory to the customer, and that vehicle has got GPS. Nowadays everyone has got GPS. But the problem is that GPS is not integrated with your ERP. So, but if your GPS is integrated with your ERP, if the truck is getting delayed, the customer can get an intimation from ERP that this is the time, right? So this is how you have got IoT used, and IoT can be used in so many other areas, facility management. If your facility wants to particular temperature, wants to be a vibration so much, and if any of the parameter going outside the limit, it can get alert. For the inventory management, we have actually implemented you have got the inventory system, automatically retrieval and the placement system with the IoTs. Quality, these can be managed. Now, what is big data? Now soon you will have hundreds of IoT in your organization. Okay, companies like Kirloskar mentioned that they already have so many IoTs. Soon everybody will have IoTs. Now, this data coming from ERP, everyone knows ERP, so I don't have to tell you what ERP is. It contains inventory, financials, HR, production, service, purchase, MRP. Data coming from all these systems, plus now you've got the social media and CRM, so many applications you have. And each of the applications generating huge amount of data. Now the data are very high volume, very high velocity. Now if you have got the actuator getting data from machines, every second you're getting the data coming in, right? And you've got variety systems. Now all the data need to be stored, right? Before any action is taken on that, need to be properly stored. It has to be coming from different structures. So there is the big data where your data coming from various systems. And now what is machine learning is part of the AI, what Mr. Kirloskar just spoke before lunch. He has taken the experience of the salesperson, right? So before the salesperson retires, whatever happens, right, they want the data to go inside the AI. So next up that they are using that. So it's already happening. Soon in 2, 3, 4 years, I'm sure SMEs also use. So you should know what the machine learning is. Machine learning is nothing but it is a statistical models on the data which we just now save, and they try to find a pattern. I'll give you another example, interesting example. In USA, there is a large chain of the retail, and they have hundreds of stores and generating lakhs of invoices per day. They found out that on Friday evening, the invoice which happened, the diaper and beer, they are sold together. It is very surprising for them. what is the link between diaper and beer? So they found out on Friday evening when the husband is coming back from office, his wife, who is just a new mother, calls saying that please get some diaper. So he changes route, goes to the mall, buys some diaper. He's tired. He says, yes, I am entitled to a can of beer. So along with he buys 6 can beer. So then when they realized this happening, you know what they did? They put the shelf of diaper and the beer nearby. So their sales of diaper and beer both increased, right? So this is how this is one of the example. Similarly, this machine, the advantage is so everywhere they're doing the insurance, the engineering, every industry now using this, okay? And analytics, of course, you're sure aware that unless you have got analytics, you cannot take the decision. This data from machine learning output is properly presented for the management to take the decision. Now, where is our SME? Now, these are the big words, right? Where do we stand today as a SME, right? I am working mainly with the SMEs. So, and I also talking with some of the members during the lunch. I find that most of the SMEs, they have computerized accounting, inventory. Inventory also only raw material and the finished good inventory. They use ERP for printing of purchase orders, invoices, challan, quotation, etc. They also get what I call the post-mortem reports. At the end of the year, they get some reports. This went wrong, this was the total thing. But I call it post-mortem because this thing has happened. No, ab pachta hot gaya jab chidiya chug gayi khet, right? So your system should give indication when things are going wrong. It should help you taking the decision, not telling after 3 months, 1 year that this is what you should have done, right? So they are SMEs, the MDs, they are not taking the use of technology in the decision making. Just before lunch, in the morning, Mr. Sanjeev Bajaj said that 20% to 70% in the organization, they spend time on future. What is going to happen next? What are we doing? You're spending 10 to 12 hours a day in the office doing the routine things. You are not thinking of doing new because you don't have time. Day-to-day things only are not coming out of it. Right? This is the reality of the SME today. I'll skip some of the thing because we are short of time. Okay. So the topic of today's seminar is how to succeed in difficult times. I'll see from the SME point of view. Now, these are nothing new to you. I know you are listening to this for 10 years. Maximum utilization of resources. I'll take only material. Are you doing proper utilization of material? Now, material planning. Okay? If you are auto component, you get schedule from your OEM, or if you are manufacturer, you get orders from your customer. And then, very few SMEs are using a proper tool for doing MRP. They are doing Excel. What they do, they get the orders from ERP, fed in Excel. They are expert in Excel. They take the, they have an old bomb. They think that I have got good bill of material, but they don't. Then they try to explore, they take the gross requirement, they try to find the stock which they think is correct, and then they try to find the requirement. Now this is fail. You know, since you yourself know the output given by after 3-4 days struggling on Excel sheet, the output given is wrong. Either you buy too much of material or just stock out of your factory, right? So you have to have a proper system where good MRP is used. Without MRP, ERP useless. Machine, man, you know. I'll take another example of money. Now, you may make 25 products. Do you know the costing of a product? Right? Do you know the current costing? Not the throughout the year. The cost of steel keep on changing, right? So, cost of raw material keep on changing. You should know what is the cost of my material which happened yesterday. The thing which was produced yesterday. What is the cost of that? Is it less? More? Are you in your control? Forecast. Do you know next month what money you are going to require, from where money is going to come, how money is going to go? Do you get alerts? Are you in budget? Are you able to control? These things your CFO is doing manually. He spends times, days and day out on Excel sheet. Again, you are not sure where the output coming Excel sheet right or wrong. Now, what Mr. Kirloskar said in the just before lunch was that we have to avoid human errors, right? He tried to make systems such that the new errors are allowed, but the old errors should not be allowed, right? And errors can happen in any of the transactions happen in your industry. Right from giving quotation to your customer, getting PO from your customer, purchase request, purchase order, inward from supplier, production orders, supply to issue of material, FG received, making invoice. Mistakes are happening in each of them. So if you avoid mistakes, your efficiency will go up. The rework will come down, right? Then there should be validation. I talk about then you get alerts. Instead of getting MIS report which people don't see, right? I'll give example of human error. You have given a purchase request to purchase officer. He forgets to give a PO, right? Then he is not able to, mistakes will happen, right? So what should the solution for SME? What should be your system? Your system should be proactive, should be alert, should be integrated, should not have too many of the applications, should be user friendly, should be affordable, should not cost 50 lakhs. SME can afford 10, 15 lakhs, they can afford, should not cost more than 15 lakhs. Should not require costly servers, so your software should be bug free, should allow the best business practices, should integrate with machine. We talk about the IoT, so your system should be ready to work with IoT. Mobile app, your software should be able to work with mobile app, you should be able to do it from anywhere. And then, what is the right time to change? As Mr. Bajaj said, it is cyclical. Up and down is cyclical. You should be ready when the system industry turns around. Are you ready for the growth? When there's a huge business, you won't be able to change your systems. So today is the right time to change your systems. Thank you.